Gavin, hi, how are you? Okay,
Hi, Chris. I'm very well, thank you, and I hope you're well too.
very good. So, one of the reasons I wanted to particularly chat to you is that you have reinvented yourself during lockdown, haven't you?
I
You've been
have,
doing all
yes,
kinds of other activities.
yes, I've had to. It's, you're well aware of what I did previously, and my life was on an aeroplane up until my last flight was actually the 13th of March, the day before the Spanish lockdown began. So the family office I was advising before, clearly I couldn't work fully remotely for them. So I had to find new opportunities and yet again reinvent myself. So yes, several opportunities came my way. I was speaking to the hotel guru, who you know very well, Mr. Dev Anand, and myself and Mr. Anand, I've become an associate partner of the hotel property company. And
Well
we've
done.
been working on a couple of potential brokerage deals where we have mandates directly with owners of hotels, which again is due to the previous transactions I'd completed with the RTT family office over the years. It's an area that I know. But funnily enough, the most recent reinvention came from going and buying my fruit and veg on a daily basis, which I live in a small part of the south of Tenerife, which is like a private urbanization called Palmar. And recently a very, very good fruit and vegetable shop opened where the lady does takeaway, Buddha bowls, vegan and vegetarian food.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, no, and some very good stuff. The lady cooked, as I say, vegetarian and vegan. She did a dish with pomelo, which is the Asian grapefruit, but not the actual pomelo, the skin, the husk, where they soak it for nearly a week and it changes format. It basically becomes gelatinous, almost like pork belly. So I tried this pomelo one day and I was just amazed at what this woman had done. And as I cook all of the food in my house, coming from a hospitality background and being having great interest in gastronomy and having done a lot of cooking along the way, I decided to start taking her in some of the dishes that I'd had left over from home. The majority of the vegan and vegetarian food that I cook happens to be from the Indian kitchen, from my time spent in India, having a couple of Indian chef friends I'd learnt along the way. So I took her in one day a double bean curry and a couple of rotis that I'd just made. And the woman was extremely surprised that this little English guy living in Spain could cook such authentic curries, considering she'd spent a lot of time in India. So the upshot was this fruit and veg shop stroke takeaway offers cooking workshops or cooking classes on Sunday afternoons when the fruit shop's closed. So she invited me to become a guest chef. So I went,
Fantastic.
yeah, it's something I've, obviously training, mentoring and developing the people I've worked with over the years has been one of my most enjoyable parts of my job. So yeah, I took the plunge. Even better, she said to me, I'll share the takings with you. I'll pay for the ingredients. So we cooked, well, first of all, we made rotis. Then we cooked a double bean curry or a lima bean curry, as the Indians would say, with bell peppers or capsicum peppers. We would call them, I think, butter beans in English. I taught them how to make the Sri Lankan curry powder that I personally like and was taught by a very good, well-known, famous Sri Lankan chef, but no names mentioned at this point. And I had 15 students ranging from French, English to Spanish to Italian and Belgians. And what a wonderful afternoon it was.
I can imagine it's great, to be fair.
Yeah, I've never taught cooking. I'm not a qualified chef by any shape or form, but running the odd Michelin-starred restaurant along the way over the last 20 odd years has certainly helped. And something I do is, not quite as pragmatic as Jamie as chuck anything in. I am rather pragmatic about what I use and what is at hand and what is available. So yeah, it was good fun. And I think I've had, from the 15 attendees, I've had probably 11 emails thanking me, asking for more Indian recipes. I also taught them how to make a split chana pea dal, which is a polished split chickpea dal, which they loved as well. I add, for example, a bit like a Danzak curry, I add in star anise and tamarind to make it sweet and sour. So yeah, it was great fun, and I earned a few quid along the way. Don't get me wrong.
is this going to be a continuing trend? Are you going to carry on doing this?
Most definitely during lockdown, yes, because one has to pay the bills. The bills, unfortunately, here don't go away. Self-employed people, if you've lost X amount, you can get some assistance, but unfortunately, I don't fall into that bracket, having only recently become self-employed. So yes, I'll certainly be doing as many as I can.
Very well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
you. And how has lockdown been?
Well, as you may know, the Spanish lockdown began on the 14th of March and only ended last week. Well, no, this week even, sorry, on Monday. You probably also know the Spanish lockdown was the most stringent in Europe. For over 2 months, we were only allowed to leave the house to go shopping, nothing else. I once went to buy petrol without going shopping, and I nearly got fined €500 for that by the Guardia Civil. The children, as you know, I have 2 young children, the twins. For the first 2 months, they were not allowed out of the house apart from to go to the doctors.
That must have been incredibly hard. No?
It was incredibly hard. The first couple of weeks were novelty, then it became very laborious, but I think after about week 5, we all got into a swing and we just got on with it. Luckily, the Spanish government then changed the rules. After about 2 months and a week, we were allowed to take the kids out for an hour's exercise a day. And we were also allowed to go out as adults. But at the beginning, for example, myself and my wife were not allowed to go out with the 2 children. So it was a little difficult at the beginning. But as I say, we found our rhythm. And again, you know my history, 12 flights a week, some weeks over the last 15 years. Being in the same place now for nearly 5 months without getting on an aeroplane for me is something totally unheard of for over 15 years. And I have to say, I've really got into the swing of it. We have and you and I have spoken about this before, the rhythm at home and the programming. Now it is totally different from what it was previously. I do breakfast, lunch and dinner. My wife goes to the gym very early in the morning and I get the kids up, I do the breakfast and we have our routine and, we all get on with it. Luckily, a couple of weeks ago, again, the Spanish de-escalation has been quite well programmed, I have to say. So about, I think it was a month ago, we were allowed to meet with a small closed group of friends. We were at restaurants opened at minimum capacity. So we did start to reclaim our social lives. My personal philosophy on it is, we had to get back to something resembling normal. So the first day we could go to restaurants, we went to a restaurant. Just for our mental sanity and basically to have social contact with, 2 4-year-old twins who had not seen their friends for nearly, at that point, 3 months. It was great to see them flourish. Whilst they have grown extremely well during this period. My wife has been teaching them Italian and Spanish. I've been teaching them English. We've been doing an hour and a half, 2 hours a day of schoolwork. They can count to 20 in 3 languages. They can do the alphabet, the full alphabet without prompting in 3 languages. They can write their names, my name, their mother's name, their sister's name, etc., etc. So yeah, there has been some very good personal positives come out of this, as well as the negatives that everyone has experienced.
And what's the atmosphere like in Spain? Is it positive about what's going to happen next, or fear?
To be honest with you, I can only talk for the Canary Islands, where I live on the island of Tenerife. I'm very well connected with the Regional Hotel Association. I know the president very well. He's been extremely vocal. Jorge Marichal has been. He's also the president of the whole of the Spanish Hotel Federation, funnily enough. And he's been very critical about the way the government has dealt with it, particularly in terms of the businesses for the hotels here. Originally, as you may know, they weren't going to allow British tourists back into Spain. Thankfully, that's now been changed and the British tourists come back, because here in the Canary Islands, sea or sea, we rely on the British market. And if the British market don't come, the hotels weren't going to open. They're still not opening. The majority of hotels here are not going to open purely for regional or national business. They are going to wait until the Brits come back. Jorge himself, the president, owns a number of hotels. His hotels, they're not talking about opening till perhaps September, October for the winter season. There's over more than 40% of the workforce here in Tenerife works in hospitality. So you can imagine the effect it's had on the economy here. Devastating, devastating.
And now coming out, you're obviously doing a number of different projects.
Yeah,
you've been through quite a couple of years, haven't you?
I have indeed, but I remain strong and I remain positive. I'm currently exploring with a number of family offices some collaboration on my development skills and my development history. As I said previously, I'm working with Mr. Devanand, and that's proving to be an exciting roller coaster of a journey. We all know what hotel brokerage and hotel sales is like. If you're lucky, if 1 in 100 comes off. But there are a number of assets on the market at the moment. There are a number of funds, a number of family offices on the acquisition hunt. So you never know. You just have to remain positive. I'm also working with some local developers on a development project here in Tenerife, a new hotel that was due to open this year, but now not. So yeah, I'm certainly keeping busy, which...
You've been working in Norway as well, haven't you? You've been doing a project.
I was doing some board advisory services with a group of young guys who had set up a recruitment app for casual, QSR restaurants, banqueting, etc., where they had a pool of people, and they basically did the whole legal contract side, the payment side, and administered all of the paperwork. That was called the Staffers app. Yes, I'm still talking with those guys. Obviously, they've been hit massively due to everything being closed, but again, they've reinvented their app. There is something new coming out, which probably I'll speak to you personally about, because I think it could have a very positive impact on QSR restaurants, banqueting staff, pools of staff. So I'll speak to you about that offline when we get a chance.
I look forward to that, Gavin. So, and how do you view the whole recovery process?
I think it's certainly going to be lengthy, and I think there's definitely going to have to be some changes in the industry. I'm not a doctor. My own personal view is I think some of it's a bit too far. I'm quite pragmatic by the same token. I think, we shouldn't go too far. We can't ruin hospitality. Hospitality is what it is. It's about people. And however you wish to social distance, put up barriers, people have to be people, and people will go to hotels because of people. That's my philosophy. Half the world may scream at me and saying that's not the right approach, but I still believe it's all about people, and people will still want personal contact. If I'm going to a hotel, I'm not going to want to talk to someone behind or via an app, or I'm not going to want to sit there in a bar with a mask on. That's not me. I'm sorry. I think, I hope there's either a vaccination developed very quickly, and we can return to whatever the new normality is. Or I hope we all get herd immunity and life goes on. There was an amazing video that I posted on LinkedIn some time ago about I want my first hug, or I want a hug. That really, really resonated with me. That was a video that brought tears to my eyes. Everybody I sent it to, I don't know whether you saw that, Chris. If you haven't, you really, really must see it. It's something that resonated with me. And I'll be totally honest with you, the first time I saw my friends, we didn't socially distance, we gave each other hugs, and that's what life's about for me, personal contact.
It's been a really interesting 3 or 4 months, hasn't it? Because actually, it's given you a real chance to reconnect with people you haven't connected with for years.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Actually, and also build new friendships you probably had never have built had it not been for this period of time. So actually, there's been lots of lovely things come out of this.
There has. It's a mixed bag, most definitely. But you know, as you know, my personal situation, I'm not a great supporter of working from home. I don't have a dedicated office in my house. 2 half-Italian 4-year-old twins screaming around the house makes it virtually impossible. They are currently locked in the garden watching a video on the iPad with headphones so that you can't hear them, because if they were, I'm on the landing on the top floor of my house, if they were downstairs, you would hear them screeching. Unfortunately, my kids aren't the quietest.
Funny. And how do you feel you've changed?
I think I've become more, what's the word? I have more patience, I think. I've dealt with my personal internal anger in different ways. You know the ups and downs I've had over the last 2 years, the peaks and troughs. I don't look upon it in the same light that I did before. I think perhaps I've mellowed. I think I've become more resourceful, as we've all had to be able to survive. You know, I don't take anything for granted anymore. You know, I just got a new gig working with the family office in Milan. I was in Milan till 2 days before the lockdown. Came back via the UK. But, you know, que sera, sera, for want of a better expression. And I've just realized now, whatever is thrown at me, I can deal with it.
Yeah, that's quite a big change as well, isn't it?
Yeah. You know how angry I was over the last 2 years with certain things that happened and being treated unfairly and things just not working out. It was a negative downward spiral, and I was in some dark places at times. Now I realize that those times were very challenging, and perhaps I didn't handle them as well as I could from a personal mental health perspective. Now my personal mental health after this period is probably as strong as it's been for the last 10 years. Well, no, last 8 years, I think.
I just think it's absolutely fascinating how a chief executive is reinventing himself cooking again with people and teaching. I think that's actually, and I've seen the video and it actually looks really a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was great. And, you know, if you think about it, the only actual cooking classes I ever had were going back, nearly 30 years at Ealing College from a very, well, I'm sure you know him, Professor David Foskett. He was my cooking teacher in Ealing College in 1991 or thereabouts. So, no, even before, 1990. Professor Foskett, David Foskett, who I believed was...
Yep, very well known figure.
And, you know, there was Vic Laws, all that gang in those days. And that's about the only, you know, professional cooking qualifications I've ever had. But, you know, I've built a number of restaurants over the years that have been quite successful. So, yeah, I picked up a bit along the way. And I enjoy cooking. It's my hobby. You only have to ask Nick Metcalf, who's eaten at my house, and Judith Metcalf. There you go.
So your love and your passion has always been hotels.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to getting back into running hotels again?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Listen, you know, my background is not chain hotels. I've always worked for independent hotels, boutique, top end of the market, worked for family offices. Unfortunately, you know that the larger chains don't even look at people like me. And when I do send my CV, I'm told I'm a wonderful experience, I'm overqualified, but I've got no big five on there. So yes, I'm focusing on what I know best. I'm focusing on family offices, either Spanish, Italian, British, American, as I've worked for before. I'm looking at some quite exciting projects, and as my Arabic friends would say, inshallah, something will soon happen.
No, that's great, Gavin. Great. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
And thank you for sending the video. It's been it's really great to watch. So I look forward
to Chris. Thank you very much. Great speaking to you, Chris.
Great speaking to you. Take care.
Thank you, Chris. Bye-bye.